Hello, Laura people of Laura. My name is Justin. I am one half of Love Withstanding. My wife Sarah isn't available for recording of this video. I am recording this at my home office. As some of our viewers already know, I am a software developer. I work from home most of the time. I spend most of my days sitting in this chair, sitting in front of my computer, working from home as a software developer. But enough about me. Let's dive into today's topic. This video is a follow-up to my previous video where I talked about the letter that I received from my dad. So after reading the letter, it appears to me that they are open to me coming over. And it sounds like they are not afraid of COVID-19 anymore, which is surprising because I thought my parents were the type who would say COVID never really goes away. It will circulate forever, so we'll need to live in isolation for the rest of our life. It was Saturday when I decided to go over to my parents' house. My wife was at home, but we thought it was best that I go there alone. I loaded my car with a couple of empty suitcases and cardboard boxes and headed to my parents' house. I arrived there around 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I parked the car in their driveway and walked over to the front door. I rang the doorbell. I stayed quiet, hoping to hear some commotion inside the house. I heard absolute silence. I rang the doorbell again, then I knocked harder. I called their house phone from my cell phone. I could hear their phone ringing from inside the house. The call eventually went to voicemail. Then I thought I could go through their garage door if they hadn't changed their PIN code. I entered the code and to my surprise, the garage door opened. So I walked inside the garage and I tried to open the door that connects the garage to the house. And again, to my surprise, the door was unlocked, so I got inside the house. I walked around the main floor, the living room, kitchen, they were all empty. I took a peek inside the washroom, which was unoccupied. I decided to go upstairs and took about 5 steps up the stairs. Then I heard some sound coming from the staircase that leads to the basement. I stopped, turned around, and I took 1 step down. I looked up and I locked eyes with my dad. We were frozen and we were both startled to see each other. My dad was holding vacuum cleaner and standing at the top of the staircase from the basement. I was very saddened by the sight of him because last time I saw him, he had a mix of black and white hair, but now he was completely white and his face has visibly aged significantly. I hugged my dad and exchanged pleasantries. He said he couldn't hear the doorbell because he was busy vacuuming the basement floor. He told me to wait in the living room while he goes upstairs and check if mom is awake. After a few moments, my mom was storming down the stairs. Each step she took down the step was thundering thud. The first thing that came out of her mouth was, "Your wife is keeping you prisoner in your own home? Did she tell you to not visit your parents?" I tried to rationalize to the best of my ability, but I don't think she heard anything I said. I mean, they're the ones who told me not to come over due to COVID-19, and they didn't respond after I mailed them a photo album of the girls a year ago. We invited them to our wedding, to our baby shower, to gender reveal birthday parties of the kids, and they refused to come to any of those events. In the midst of yelling, I decided to pull out my phone and went to my photo gallery and pulled a video of my daughters being cute and I shoved the phone in the face of my mom. My mom immediately stopped yelling and squinted her eyes to take a better look. She asked, "You have 2 kids?" And it occurred to me my dad has never shared the photo album with my mom. I told her that I have 2 daughters and 1 baby on the way, and that baby is a boy. Mom responded with a very quiet voice, which is uncharacteristic of her. She said, "These days, people prefer to have daughters instead because they look after you when you get older." But I knew that was a cover-up. Let me tell you a backstory. My paternal grandparents didn't like my mom because she was a farmer's daughter with little education, while my paternal grandpa was a bank executive living in a huge mansion, so they looked down on her. My sister was born first, and then I was born 14 months after. The story goes that my paternal grandma told my mom, "At least you're good for something," meaning that my mom was good for giving them an heir to continue their family name. If I were a betting man, I would bet that my mom said those exact words in her head while I told her that we are expecting a baby boy. Then I said the baby's due date is March 30th, but we don't have anyone to watch the kids when my wife and I go to the hospital to deliver the baby. During our previous baby delivery, my mother-in-law, Sarah's mom, was watching Sabrina, but now she's retired and she's living in Philippines. As soon as I finished that sentence, my mom said with a very energetic voice, "Bring them over here." I was stunned at that response. I didn't think she would want to do anything with my kids. In the past, my mom had made disparaging comments like, "No kid mixed with black blood is grandkid of mine." I continued showing more photos and videos, and my mom commented that the kids have very big eyes and they look like living Barbie dolls. And that's when my mom turned to me and asked, "Which one is more beautiful?" My dad started chuckling and said, "You can't ask that to any parent." Then my mom said she thinks the younger one is more beautiful. I asked why they want me to clean out my old bedroom. Mom's response was that they're going to do renovation. They're going to put a heated floor in my old bedroom because that room is the coldest room in the house. I said renovation like that could cost $8,000 or more. Her response was, "I will do it with these two hands." She never did any kind of renovation like that before, so it was hard to believe. As far as I know, neither of my parents have ever used circular saw. I think this is one of their pipe dreams. When I used to live in their house, they used to talk about how the upcoming years when they will start visiting Korea on a regular basis, because up to that point we had never gone back to Korea since we moved to Canada. But that plan never materialized year after year, despite them telling me that the upcoming year is the year they're going to start visiting Korea on a regular basis. While the conversation was going on, I noticed something about my dad that appeared to have some sort of sign of illness. Before I could bring it up, my mom volunteered the information about him. I asked if he had seen a doctor, and his response was no, and that he doesn't need to see a doctor because he's doing some home remedy based on what he found on Korean websites. I urged him to go see a doctor, but he kept changing the topic, so I eventually dropped the topic. More on that later in this video. My mom also mentioned that they had gotten COVID twice, and they also got vaccinated. I told them about my symptoms when I had COVID, that I couldn't taste coffee or anything for that matter. I asked them if they had the same symptoms. Mom said her symptom was rash all over their bodies. I asked, "How do you know it was COVID and not something else?" And her response was, "The rash was so bad, it had to be COVID." I asked them if they got tested with a home test kit, and she said no. And she asked how much does it cost to buy the home test kit. I was surprised that they didn't know they was free. She said that in Korean news they heard that they have to buy home test kits. And I told her in Canadian news they said you can get them for free at any pharmacy. But I felt good that they got vaccinated after holding out for so long. They were anti-vax for so long, but maybe something I told them finally made sense to them. Who knows? After packing up the luggages with my old clothes that I will donate to Goodwill, I was ready to head home, but before leaving the house, I asked if my kids could come over to visit so they would get used to their grandparents before the day we have to rush to the hospital. My dad agreed that that's a good idea, but Mom disagreed. She said that blood is blood. Kids will know if they're with their grandparents. Both myself and my dad vehemently disagreed, and the kids have stranger danger notion and will not be comfortable with new faces. I asked if I can go home and bring them back right now, and Mom said no. Then I asked, how about tomorrow or the next weekend? Her response was no and no. I said, we don't have much time before the baby is due. Her response was, what about my pride? And she was pointing at the things around the house. The 30-year-old, well-worn-out sofa, the empty spot in the living room where cathode ray tube TV used to be, a cupboard in the kitchen that's hanging loose, a water stain damage in the ceiling. She was afraid that a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old would judge her for her living conditions. I had this giant wave of sadness that came over me. All this time, her lack of financial stability was being manifested as a hatred towards my wife and the kids. I said to Mom that kids don't care about that. They just want someone to hug and tell them they are loved. I left at that and packed my stuff in the car and drove home. I told my wife all about my visit to my parents' home. When I described what I saw about my dad's symptoms of his illness, my wife was alarmed and told me what kind of illness it could be. Since she's a nurse at a retirement home, she sees many residents with similar symptoms. And she scared me with a story how some of those residents were diagnosed to live only 3 months if left untreated. She urged me to call him back to plead with him to go see a doctor. So I did. I relayed the information that I got from my wife, but my dad still refused to go see a doctor. I told him that I'll book an appointment for you. I'll even take time off from work to drive you to your appointment. He doesn't drive, by the way. His answer was resounding no, and he told me that his family doctor's clinic is about 45-minute drive from where we are, because that's the only Korean doctor that he could find in the city. I don't know the name of the clinic or the name of the doctor, although I could potentially take a guess if I were to do some Google search for Korean doctors in the city. I ended up telling him that I will call back a week later to check if he had made an appointment to see a doctor, and I left it at that. I didn't completely clear out my room, so I'll need to go back there again sometime. So I'll have another chance to change his mind about going to see a doctor. That's all that I have for today's video, but I will update you guys with a follow-up video, so be sure to subscribe and watch out for our next video. But I'm curious what strategy could be effective in convincing someone like my dad to go see a doctor. Leave your comment in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in our next video. Say hello to baby Chanel!
Say hi, Papa. Hi,
Say
everyone.
hi, everyone. Hello.
Say hi. Oh, blow kiss.
Little kiss.
Blow kiss. Look, blow kiss. Chanel, how old are you?
How old are you, Chanel?
Hi, 5. How old are you? 2. You think you're 5? Oh, you look cute. 2. Look at this girl. A blow kiss, my love.
Okay, bye everyone. Bye.
Say bye. Say bye.